Hi, I'm Bill Mollison. I sometimes get very sick of bad news. And I think we should always look at things like that and try to turn it into good news. It's really easy to turn things around. In 5 weeks' time, this will be a nice set of potatoes. And for me, that's good news.
We are global. We're the world's largest aid agency. We have more projects and more people and more experience than any other aid agency. We don't cost anybody money. And we work in hundreds of countries. We work in the tough areas where we don't seem to see any tourists or anybody from universities. And we think we do have very high credibility. And we've saved hundreds, perhaps thousands of lives and built very nice systems for people to live in.
When we unfold the vast tapestry of our existence, there emerge figures whose footprints have minted profound marks upon the soil of our collective consciousness. In this film, we will explore the life of a man at the heart of an idea. A vision born from the nexus of human curiosity and the silent murmurs of nature. This is Bill Mollison, the father of permaculture.
Permaculture, originally we invented the word. It comes from two Latin roots, permanens, that's one. To persist indefinitely. And culture generally are the practices that support human occupation of the earth. So that's where it came from. And I first put it together way back in the Dark Ages, in 74, I think. And when I published after that, I copyrighted it, and I had a reason for doing that, and I'll tell you what it is. I didn't want it to fall into the hands of the universities, because it would become another lost art. But our students can use it for themselves. Students, if you do a course, you can use it. And it's gifted to the institutes. But people, you can't have somebody in university teaching permaculture. We've challenged them several times. That's all you have to do, challenge them. And they fold up and steal away. Because we never wanted it to get into the existing institutions. That's where it would die.
And this is where the designer turns into a recliner. You can rest in your garden. If you have it already well planted, you can pretend to be working in the garden and be invisible from your house. Now, only 2 years later, I am invisible from the house. And before, where there were biting ants by the thousands, there are now only worms. And in fact, I can recline here and be totally invisible from even 10 feet away. With most of the garden perennial or self-seeding, your work in planting is almost finished after a year or so, and basically you're a forager, you become a forager. There's always a wide variety of food because a tremendous amount of tropical fruit is root crop for storage. Still, at most times of year there's something good to eat. These gardens that we build in the tropics are very much the disorder of nature. This year I've been travelling, I don't have a lot of annual gardening. Okra, just capsicum, bush basil, and you have a fairly good base for salads and main foods. There's probably about another 30 varieties that we could pick. I think there's 412 food plants just in this area here.
There's all sorts of definitions of permaculture. There are some I love. This bloke who looked very much like Karl Marx one day. He even had an overcoat like Karl Marx. And everybody left the lecture theatre and one light was still on. He stood between me and the light looking like Karl Marx. And he said, and he wasn't looking at me, he was looking at the wall, and he said, "You know what you've done, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, I think I do." "What are you thinking of?" He said, "You've made a sort of wardrobe in which we can hang all human knowledge in relation to each other." You like that definition? I loved it. I thought, wow, how bloody perceptive. I don't know who he was, and he never asked me to follow him, so he's no trouble. Are you laughing there, man? I'm unaccustomed to being laughed at. My daddy was a keeper of the Eddystone Light, played with a mermaid every night. They had children, 1, 2, 3, a porpoise and a herring, and the other was me. Yo ho ho, the wind blows free. Oh, for life on the rolling sea. Every bushman in the Kalahari can sing that song. I taught them myself. And I thought, bugger the anthropologists, I'm going to leave them something to worry about. and they can still sing it years later, you know.
Our first course in southern Africa was given in 1987, and 2 students came home and set up a magnificent training centre in Zimbabwe, the Fambidzan Eye Centre, which contains most of the examples that Africa needs. Whichever culture you're working with, you have a cultural method of work and a cultural method of learning. In Africa, everyone sings. They sing the work, they sing the learning, they sing the story from village to village. And to me, the sound of people singing while they work is African. We won't find that in Europe. We're in India in the southern Deccan, about 2 hours by road north of Hyderabad. This whole area is covered with flat, barren rock that's been eroded over the years. And it was here that we gave the first permaculture course in India. And this place, which is the Deccan Developing Society's headquarters, is where we started to spread permaculture in India. And one of my students was Dr. Venkat. Hello, Venkat. So, this is the first banana clump I planted here. And it was all like hard like this in those days. I remember the students helping me. We had to use pits here. I've always been amazed at the good bunches from this clump. How much have we got off it?
About 80 to 90 bunches.
In how many years?
1.5 years.
That's pretty good, isn't it? Yeah, and we've got a lot of bananas off it. This was the first banana circle, I think, on the Deccan.
In India?
In India, yeah.
First circle.
Yeah, it stood up very well.
Towards the end of December 1987, this is how our farm looked like. No trees, not even shrubs, not even grass.
I remember that all right. I remember using the picks, you know, you couldn't just plant something.
Couldn't just plant at this time.
This is astounding, you know, jackfruit.
Pomegranate here.
Pomegranate here.
Guava, the cherry there, the mango.
God, the place is dripping with food here. Bananas, coconut. I never thought this soil would produce phosphorus. Yeah.
Bruce Charles Bill Mollison was born in 1928 and grew up in the fishing village of Stanley, Tasmania. When looking at Bill's life, it's hard to imagine where he found the time to do all that he did. His lectures were often sidetracked by captivating tales of his barefooted youth in Tasmania, his adventures with the Australian Aborigines and Kalahari Bushmen, or his travels to all four corners of the earth, where he shared his inventiveness and ingenuity with the people and communities who needed it most.
Yeah, some years ago I was a young man, like a century ago roughly, and they advertised, I didn't have a job at the time, I'd been fishing, and the government had automated the lighthouses, and therefore the supply boat that carried supplies to the lighthouses and isolated fishermen like me didn't come anymore. So I walked up and down in the employment office making speeches until they found me a job. And they said, here's a job in university, blowing glass. And I said, okay. So I took the slip, I went down, I said, yeah, I want a glass blower, and they said, yeah. I said, I'm it. Surprising, they said, there's not a lot of them. I said, no, not a lot of us. Especially somebody, I've never blown glass in my bloody life. So I went to the State Library and they had a little old book bound in pigskin or something and written in ancient English about blowing glass. And that's all they had, just this one little book. So I borrowed it and I didn't take it back for a few months. And then I went down to uni and I said, give me some glass and a burner, which they did. And in a week's time I came out with the tea piece. And it says in the glass book, if you can make a tea piece, you can make anything. So I said, tell me what you want. And they said, we want thousands of Geiger counters. So I said to them, I made them after something like 15 cents each. And Melbourne got wind of us having all these fantastic Geiger counters. And they sent over for me. And Mr. Geiger left Germany and came to see me, because mine were very cheap and very reliable, and his were awfully expensive because he made them from evaporated gold. And I made mine out of aquadag, colloidal graphite. When I first came to Melbourne University, I came as a humble glass blower, actually a humble fisherman who pretended he was a glass blower, because glass blowing is a 9-year apprenticeship, which I omitted. I did a 3-week reading research. But I could make anything. It just didn't look good. It was lumpy glass blowing. It just terminated me.
The original idea for permaculture is said to have come to Bill in 1959, while he was observing marsupials browsing in the Tasmanian rainforests. He was inspired and awed by the life-giving abundance and rich interconnectedness of this ecosystem. At that moment, he wrote in his diary, "I believe that we could build systems that would function as well as this one does." He later recalled in his book, Introduction to Permaculture, "Based on my observations over the many years with the CSIRO, in the Wildlife Survey section, and with the Tasmanian Inland Fisheries Department, I began to protest against the political and industrial systems I saw were killing the world around us and its constituents along with it. Very soon, however, I realised that it is no good persisting with opposition, because in the end, it was achieving nothing. I withdrew from protesting to contemplate positive actions and modalities to achieve the outcomes which I envisioned.
People don't even realise that everything they ever need is right outside their door. All you really need is sun, plants. Keep your eye on the soil. Because you've got plenty of fruit, you've got a lot of friends.
What was or is your motivation for practicing permaculture?
Well, it's very simple. It's anger and actually fury. I don't think anything else will keep you going like I've been going, except anger. I haven't got any love in me at all, and I hate community. Part of the other thing makes me furious. Two things really: spiritualism, community.
Why is that?
People who talk about community want to manage other people, and people don't like being managed. And I grew up in a village, and people say that is a community. Well, it isn't. It's a lot of individuals following the rules. And spiritualism is, I find most people who are spiritual are very greedy and very avaricious and waste a hell of a lot of time. I've fought clear of religion all my life for another reason altogether. I simply have a horrific fear of eternal life. I think it'd be the worst punishment you could ever walk into, and I want to avoid it. And if it means I never pass the church door, that's fine with me. You can have eternal life. And I don't know what you did to deserve it, because it's a shocking punishment, you know. Oh God, I've never been so bad that I deserve eternal life. And under here, which is just as important, are the invisible structures. Now, if you're in Findhorn, that's the fairies, right? I haven't found a recipe for fairies, but I think they make a good omelette if you had enough. So here's the invisible structures here. That's a fairy. A good life to me is having a garden and your friends and eating food that you want to eat.
Are you going to travel a lot, you think?
No, this is about finished. Probably this is my last long trip, because I hated travelling, and I didn't start it until I was 54. I love where I live. And I felt it was a duty, and I was angry. So, though I'm still angry, I think I did my duty. If any other individual does their duty as well, we'll have the whole earth covered. And I have students of whom I'm very, very proud, and to whom I'm very, very grateful, because they'll finish the job.
Hi, Jeff Lawton here, and this is a very sad time, because Bill Mollison, the father of permaculture, my teacher, my good mate, mentor, and then the last few courses that Bill taught, my co-teacher, Bill's passed on, and he's left us with an incredible legacy, the permaculture design system, which is really a revolution. I believe it's an evolution. It's an evolution of human thinking. It's the way we can turn things around. Instead of being the most destructive element on Earth, we can be the most beneficial, the most productive, but environmentally recreative. We can be the element that repairs the earth while we supply our own needs. And this is what Bill's left us with. And this is the turning point. This is the point where we need to make a decision. Are we going to do this? Are we going to use this incredible design science that begins with ethics, this ethical design science? Are we going to use this to repair the earth so it can go on indefinitely for the future generations? We have the capability to create such an abundant living system, a system that's presently unimaginable. I think this is the time when all caring, thinking people need to jump on the team of permaculture and get this done. We don't need any permission. It's always been, as Bill called it, peaceful sedition. You don't need authority. We can do this for ourselves. No one's going to come along and do it for us anyway. It looks like we are going to have to do it for ourselves. We can turn all the principles into directives to act. And that's what Bill wanted. Bill always used to say, how much information you have. Information that is not acted on is useless. We need to take action. We need to go into action. Many of the people in permaculture have contacted me and said, we feel more committed now. We've got to get this done. So let's do it. Let's get on with it. Let's fix the world. Let's create that abundance that we know is possible, even though we can't even imagine it. Let's do it for ourselves. Let's do it for our families. Let's do it for our community. Let's do it for the future generations. The children of the world deserve it. I look forward to you being on the team. Because we got to get this done. The lights go out forever. And that's scary. When you're on the team, you're not afraid. You're just charging at this thing with a warrior mentality. We're going to charge at it till we get it done.
The woods are lonely, dark and deep, and I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep.